How's it, guys? Okay, time for a quick update. Now, before I continue, no shout outs today. I'm still a single winged chicken at the moment, though I'm still in a sling, and I'm busy figuring out a way that I can do my recording and at the same time be able to read out my shout outs. At this point in time, it's not working out. Anyway, we've had a lot of rain. We've been blessed. In the last 6 weeks, we've had just over 200 millimeters of rain. Grass is growing well. It's early season and it's a lot of rain for this time of the year, so we're ecstatic, and the grass is slowly starting to turn nice and green, and we're starting to get some good growth. I've put the cattle in this camp. It's a very small camp. It was used in the past by the previous owners to close up or pen up their sheep at night because of stock theft. So what's happened over time, as the sheep spent every night in this camp, they would graze it down to the bottom, and eventually there's a lot of compaction that took place. So not a very good camp, not very good growth, and you can see what it looks like in certain areas. Now, before I continue, I'm just going to quickly talk about this Boran heifer over here. It's going to be difficult to record because she loves attention and she doesn't let you move around unmolested. But while I've got her here, she's very close to calving, and I'm always pointing out those dents that you look for. There it is. Have a look at that. There it is. I'm going to step back. So when she starts relaxing, and you can see it on that side as well, when she starts relaxing, have a look at that, and then I'm going to go to the cow next door that's already calved down, so that you can compare and see exactly what it is that I'm talking about. She has nothing. That's just fat folds because she's very fat. So when they're very close to calving down, they start relaxing the ligaments, or the ligaments start relaxing. They create these dents, and she will, and look at the back end of her vulva. Guys, I spoke the other day that I mentioned that a cow must have a big enough vulva to give birth. Sometimes the calf doesn't get stuck in the birth canal as such, and I've had to pull calves when the vulva is too small. So this animal has a huge vulva, and I don't expect she should have any problems giving birth. So she's very close. If it's not today, it'll probably be tomorrow, no later than Wednesday. But I'm expecting a calf, yeah, maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. I've been watching her. So yes, there's that. And for the record, we have a new calf, but I'm going to show you a little bit later. Okay, so I've got the animals in this camp. This camp has been rested since last season. There's not a lot of grass here. I've closed them up. They're going to spend the next 2, maybe 3 hours here, because I want them to graze this camp down, and then I'll remove them. And I'll give this camp another 2 or 3 months to recover. So we're doing some high density grazing here. I'm trying to repair the damage that was done in the past. Let me quickly walk over before I get back to the cattle. I'm trying to repair the damage that was done in the past, and you can see there's open areas here. Over here it's not looking good, and all of this needs to recover. But in order to do that, you need hoof action. You need the animals to come and urinate in this camp. You need them to dump their manure here, and you need them to stimulate the grass. As they stimulate the grass, it'll grow better, and they do that by trampling, and they do that by grazing. Right. Now, I put the bulls in on the 7th of February last year. Oh, goodness. Excuse me. I think I've got a bug down my throat. Anyway, I put the bulls in on the 7th of February last year. So, according to my app that I have on my phone, the earliest potential calving date would have been the 16th of November, which was yesterday. Today's the 17th. And guess what? We got a new baby. So I'll show that to you guys a little bit later, but the reason I'm mentioning that is because I have another one of my animals that is very close to calving, and they're so excited with the new grass and the new grazing. Look at that. Look at those dead patches. They need to be trampled. So they're so excited by the new grass and the new grazing that They're moving about quite a bit. But as I'm looking for her, let's quickly discuss this little Boran heifer. As I said to you guys, when she was born, I actually didn't think she was going to make it. There's her mother over there. Her udder has since developed very well. And this calf has me a little confused at times. Some days she looks a little iffy, and then other days like yesterday she's running around bucking, playing, which is indicative of a happy, healthy calf. So yeah, she sometimes confuses me a little bit. But I'll tell you one thing, I'm impressed by the tenacity and the hardiness and the toughness of these animals. Because my previous experience with other breeds, any other breed that I've worked with previously, had their calves gone through the same situation, they would not have survived. And yes, she is. She's thriving. She's not fat. Her mother doesn't have the most milk, but she's getting there. And where I was concerned she wasn't going to make it, I'm no longer really worried by that. Yes, her mother doesn't have the most milk. Yes, it was a rocky start, but she's still here. And more importantly, if she can run around and buck and play and muck about with the other calves, then she must be doing better than what I thought. So yes, we're quite happy, we're quite chuffed. Okay, I said I was going to talk about balance today, and I'm going to discuss balance while looking for this other heifer that's due to calf. Now, I've been to a couple of farmers' days where they have speakers discussing different breeds, and very often you will hear the presenter talking about an animal must have good balance. And you know, that term, it's like a magical term. Because the moment you hear it, it's like, this guy knows what he's talking about. You know, you sit back and it kind of ticks off the box that he's actually an expert in his field. And I'm not criticizing these guys. However, they never elaborate on that term. So what does balance mean? What are you looking for? And I've been thinking about this because it's bothered me. If I say an animal must have good balance, what do I mean by that? Does that mean that the size of her head in relation to her body, the length of her legs in relation to the size of her barrel, which is the middle part of the body, what does it mean? It's nice, it sounds good, but what does it mean? And guys, I still don't have an answer. Because I think ultimately at the end of the day, what I see as balance might be totally different to what someone else sees as balance. Because it depends on what you're looking for and what you're selecting for. However, I think where balance is important is when you look at the selection, or the makeup at least, of your herd. And what do I mean by that? I'm going to go back to this little Boran heifer that calved recently. Now, I always say everything comes at a cost, and I'm going to use her as an example. Her mother, as I mentioned previously, I think her mother had 9 calves by the age of 10, with an intercalving period of 339 days. Now, that is very, very good. That's amazing. But that comes at a cost. And usually the cost that comes with that is milk production. So you can expect that most of the time, it's not a fixed rule, but more often than not, animals with very low ICPs will generally have less milk production. And this makes sense, because the more milk she produces, the more nutrients she requires for maintenance and to raise her calf, and the more difficult it is for them to bounce back and build up suitable body condition. And I'm talking about animals just off grass, unaided by extra feeds, no production licks, no winter licks or maintenance licks. I'm talking about animals for the most part just off grass. So usually animals with a low ICP will come at the cost of calf weaning weight. Usually. As I say, that's not always the case. So you would want animals like this in your herd, but you might not want all of them to be like this. Now we come to the opposite end of the spectrum. And I'm going to look for her. She's over there. Guys, as I walk over, sorry. Once again, it's one-handed, so I can't pause. So you're just going to have to bear with me. So on the opposite end of the spectrum, we have that red Nguni cow over there that's walking away from us. And I'll slowly catch up to her. I just want to see where her calf is. Okay, I'll go show you the calves now. But I have this red Nguni cow, at least my son has. And I'll tell you guys one thing, the milk production of this cow is on another level. If I compare her to my other Ngunis, she's like a dairy cow. She produces a heck of a lot of milk, and you'll see it in her udder as soon as I get closer. So much so, her calf is extremely fat. But both her and the milk cow's calves were scouring last week. They had the squirts because this cow's producing too much milk. Too much milk if you're looking at intercalving period. So now we have good milk production, but it might come at the cost of intercalving period. She'll most probably win a nice heavy calf. I know the breeder of these animals, one of her comments was the milk is good, or the milk is right in her herd. So she has selected for good milk production. I'm not saying she's got too much milk for everyone. I'm saying for what I'm looking at, she might just have a little bit too much milk. However, she's also the perfect cow to use as a cross on big beefier breeds. I mean, if she has that much milk, can you imagine if you put a Chianina bull on her, what the result would be? Because she'd actually have a lot more milk to give the calf. So using her on a good terminal sire cross, a Sussex, Angus, whatever the case may be, would actually be a very good option because she's got the extra milk to grow that calf out. Now, I'll often say what you lose on the swings, you gain on the roundabouts. So you might lose a little bit in terms of intercalving period, and I don't know what it's going to be. Despite having calved down nearly a month ago, she's not in bad body condition, but she's still a little ribby. She's not bouncing back as quickly, and that makes sense because she's producing all of this milk in that udder. The calf can't even finish it. In fact, I often get here and the calf only drinks 1 or 2 quarters. And I'm monitoring her to make sure that all quarters are drunk every day, and they are suckled. But she's not bouncing back as quickly as she should, despite there being a lot of green grass at the moment. She's not in bad condition, as I say, but she's producing a lot of milk. So yes, everything comes at a cost. There must be balance in your herd. You need to have animals that produce maybe a little bit less milk with a good intercalving period. You need to have animals that might produce a little bit more milk with a slightly lower or poorer intercalving period, and that also affords you the opportunity to cross the animals from those two different groups with each other and get yourself to the position that you want to be. Now, in my herd, I'm aiming for a herd average of hopefully no higher than 370, maybe 380 days. Hopefully I can get it below 365. But given the makeup of my herd and all the different animals I have here, excuse me, that might turn out to be a bit of a challenge. So yeah, there needs to be balance in your herd. You need some smaller framed animals and you need some slightly bigger framed animals, because at the end of the day you still need a marketable product, and you need animals that, or you need offspring that complement each other or fill up each other's gaps or shortfalls, let me put it to you that way. So to get to a fairly decent intercalving period, you need animals that have a lower ICP, and to get to a fairly decent weaner mass, you need animals that have more milk. And more milk and low ICPs, as I have mentioned, generally don't go together. Just quickly look at this heifer calf. She was slightly behind. Her mother just calved down today, and I'll show you guys at the end of the video. She's actually picked up very nicely. I've mentioned it a couple of times. She was sharing her milk, or her mother's milk, with Dingaan in the background over there, that dun little bull. So he was stealing half of her milk, and at a point in time she was fairly behind him in terms of development. But since the grasses have turned green, she's actually caught up a bit. So compensatory growth is a thing in animals. What they lose, they can catch up to a little bit later, as long as they haven't lost too much, or what they're behind on. So she's starting to look good. Her mum's just calved down. and I'm going to show you guys what she looks like in a minute. She's not with these animals. Oh, where's my other heifer? Ah, there she is. Right, so we need balance, and that's one of the reasons I'm also looking at crossing my indigenous breeds with some of the more conventional breeds like your Brahman or your Simra in this case. Now, this heifer in the front of me here, walking in front of me here, she's a Simra. She's actually a larger framed animal, and I'm baffled because she was one of our biggest animals at the time of breeding. Fred's looking good, isn't he? Unfortunately, his days are numbered. He won't be with us for much longer. But that heifer over there, she will give us the very first Veldmaster bred and birthed on the farm. And she's also getting very close. Judging by the size of her udder, she's probably going to have a lot of milk. I don't know whether she's going to... She's not typically the type of animal I would expect that can survive and produce well just off grass. And she's standing now behind this grey one. Oh goodness. Are you guys conspiring to make it difficult so that I can't record here? Come on, move over. But you can see, she's a more leggy, rangy animal, and yet she's going to be the first one to calve down, so we're quite excited about that. I can see, and I'm not going to zoom in, but I can see she's already starting to slowly relax, and I actually know which day she was bred. So she was bred on the 12th of February, if I remember correctly, which means she should calve down round about the 21st. But I suspect within the next day or two, so she's probably going to calve down before that. Now, she's a huge animal. She's a huge animal. To bring back balance in my herd, I've got some smaller animals because I need to balance my production out. I need a combination of good fertility, good reproduction figures, but at the end of the day, a fairly decent average weaning mass. Just look at that, she's eating the Scottish thistle. It's the first time I've seen them eat it. And she's grazed it down to the ground. Isn't that amazing? Now, I'm trying to see if I can see another one. Was it a thistle? Yes, there's another one over there. Guys, these things have thorns on their leaves. They're actually quite thorny. And she just grazed it down to the ground. Isn't that amazing? Now, somewhere I heard on one of the videos, it was a different thistle, but the nutritional value of these plants is actually quite good because they have a taproot. They grow in areas where there's been compaction, and it makes sense because there's a couple of them in this area. But because they can push their roots down so deep, they can pull up good minerals from deep in the soil, and they actually have a good nutritional value. So she just grazed it down. First time I've seen that, and that excites me because that is a natural way of combating these plants that we ordinarily wouldn't like. Quickly, excuse me. So there are the little calves. Now, that one over there still has the squirts. I can see on her back end. She's looking good, she's looking healthy. She's now run behind the other one. Let me just turn around. This is the red cow's calf. She's actually looking stunning. She's really, really looking good. But she also has the squirts. Not as bad as the other one, but she also has the squirts. And the problem is, or the scours at least, the problem with that is they can actually start losing condition because they're getting in too much milk. So yeah, balance. These Buran animals have finally caught up. They've adapted. Their bellies are full. Zipper Lamprecht sent me, and I'm shamelessly name dropping, I know, but he sent me a video yesterday of one of his animals with probably the best gut capacity I've seen to date on an animal. I actually didn't know the Buran can actually have such a good gut capacity. So these animals have caught up. Their bellies are full. They have adapted to the grasses in terms of digestibility. And isn't she looking stunning? Now, as I said, guys, you need balance. You can't have all your cows being little dinkies. Well, you can, I suppose. but it's not ideal for me. My version of balance will differ from yours, but you're gonna have bigger framed animals and you're gonna have smaller framed animals, and these are gonna wean you 180 to 200 kilos maybe, and these are gonna wean you 220 to 240 kilos maybe. If you can achieve good balance while maintaining good reproductive figures, then I think you've pretty much got it right. Now, an interesting discussion on one of our WhatsApp groups the other day, Kenneth Ball made the comment. He said it's not the heaviest calves that grow the most, and I think he was weighing them at 12 months of age, because that's the other thing you need to look for. Some cows will wean a lighter calf, but that calf will grow faster from weaning to a year old than many other calves that are weaned heavier. Now I'm quickly going to go off. Oh goodness, this is a long one, I see. I quickly want to discuss a video I saw recently, and it comes back to balance. I'm not going to mention the breed, I'm not going to mention the breeder, but I recently saw a video, and the video started out with a student that did a study on weaning calves at an early age. And he said he decided he's at one of the universities. He had to do a paper or a PhD, or I don't know what he's doing, but he had to do a study. Or he did it for the varsity. And he did this study because he said his animals, after they calved down, would skip a year. So he was looking for a means of getting those animals of his own animals, to calve every single year from a young age. And they were looking at weaning calves at 3 months of age. The second half of the video, they had a stud breeder in South Africa. Now guys, this is a guy who's made, he's got, his street cred is way better than mine, because he's a stud breeder. He's a big guy, he's made it, he's successful. Me, I'm nobody. But he weans, or he calves his heifers down at 24 months of age. But when their calves are 60 days old or 2 months old, he weans those calves so that the heifers can then be rebred, and he doesn't have too many that actually skip, because his reconception rates weren't very good. Now I ask myself the question, and it's not for me to criticize, but at the end of the day I still have an opinion for what it's worth. Is that ideal? Is that good balance in your herd? We want animals that can calve down at 24 months, they must calve down again at 36 months, and so they must continue. But if you're having to take your calves off at 60 days of age, excuse me, if you're having to wean them at 2 months because your heifers won't reconceive at an acceptable rate, why not just select for a better type? I've been studying epigenetics. I've mentioned this. Epigenetics is how external factors influence the expression of genes in an animal. And basically, anything that has DNA is prone to the effect of epigenetics. And I ask myself the question, and once again, guys, I'm not criticizing this guy. He's a big farmer. He's successful. He's well known. He's got street cred. I don't. I've got a couple of animals here and a lot of opinions. That's all I have. But I ask myself the question, epigenetically, if you're doing that, what are you unknowingly selecting for? Whether it be good or bad. Because epigenetics can have a good outcome, a positive outcome, or a negative outcome. And do you have balance in your herd? Excuse me. As I said, I think I've got a bug in my throat. Is that the way we want to go? I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm just asking. Anyway, balance. So yeah, there's actually so much I still want to say, but this video is getting too long and I don't want to waste your time and bore you guys. But yeah, balance. We need to have balance, not only in our herds, obviously in life as well. But what does it mean? What does it mean? Do you have it in your herd? Where will it give you the most return on investment? Excuse me for that, goodness. What will give you the most return on investment? What point of balance do you need within your herd to be the most profitable? Because if it was about small framed animals, we could all farm with Dexters. and say, well, okay, fine, they're early maturing. In theory, they do very well, so why not just farm with Dexters? And there's nothing wrong with the breed. In fact, I've really thought if I can get hold of one or two, I'd like to see what the effects would be in my herd. But you need balance. You need the animals that have the 338-day ICPs. You need the animals that have the 390, 400-day ICPs. I just want to open up this. I see they're looking for water. They've actually just come from the crypt next door. Hold on, Bella. Guys, just give me a second. I just want to open the tap. Okay, I've opened it up. You need the balance. You need the 400 or 420-day ICPs. Not too many of them. But I suppose you need some of them in your herd as well to maintain that balance. You need the 220 kilogram weaner calf at weaning. You need the 180 kilogram calf at weaning. Ideally, you'd have all the animals being the same, but it doesn't work like that in life. One very interesting thing I did learn from that very same video, and this is something I never knew, and it's actually so obvious that I want to kick myself for not thinking of it. But if you have a herd of cattle and I have a herd of cattle, and you have 10 heifer calves calving down every year, and I have 10 heifers calving down every year. If you calve at 3 years, I calve at 24 months or 2 years of age. Over a 10-year period, I would have produced 100 calves more than you would have. And that's actually quite amazing. That's something this guy did teach me, and I'm grateful to him for that, because I never looked at it that way. I didn't realize it, and it makes perfect sense. By weaning, or by calving at least, by calving at 24 months, you have a significant advantage in terms of animals produced over a 10-year period. In fact, in his example, he started off with 50 heifers either side, and calving at 24 months doubled the number of animals produced over a 9-year period. I didn't take it that far, but that's one of the reasons you want to calve at 24 months, if you can. And if you can work out the kilograms, 10 extra calves every year, for example, even though you might wean them a little lighter, that still has a huge financial advantage to your herd. Well, at least I think so. Anyway, guys, I'm going to move over to the other one quickly. Animals are looking good. I've waffled on. Geez, this is a long one. If anyone's still watching, thank you so much. I appreciate it. If anyone's still watching, which I doubt. But yeah, hope you guys are having a good one. And I hope the areas that haven't had rain yet get their share. Just quickly, this milk cow's got a lot of milk. As I say, I'm ecstatic with the milk production. I do accept, however, that it'll probably come at the cost of intercalving period. I hope, however, to manage that. And if I can move them correctly, keep them on the right type of grass at the right time, and with my management practices maintain their body condition, then I can help or assist or ensure that their intercalving periods will be the minimum that they should be. Anyway, guys, I'm going to pause this. I'm quickly going to go over to the other two, and just hold on there for a second. Okay guys, I'll try and keep this one short for what it's worth. This is the calf that was born, what was it, just over a week ago, and one of our Namibian viewers actually came up with the name Pandela, which means brave. I removed him and his mum. She had retained her afterbirth, and I thought I'd bring her in here because our facilities are inside here now. I just wanted to keep an eye on her, but before I could get to her and actually do something, she pushed it out. So I don't know if she pushed everything out, but she pushed it out, and both mum and son are doing well. She got here in the middle of the winter. She still needs to build a little bit of condition, but she'll get there. But she's looking good, and the little one's looking good. But okay, these aren't the ones that I wanted to show you, so I'm just quickly going to go and move over to the new addition. But as I say, this little bull calf, pure Nguni bull calf, looking absolutely stunning. Isn't he gorgeous? Flies are bugging him a bit. The camp I've put them in is a camp that was well rested. There's a lot of good green grass. And I separated the two of them, as I say, this one because I wanted to treat her for the retained afterbirth, which she still ended up pushing out. And then the other one, Bootle, I saw that she was losing condition. I couldn't figure out why. But let me just pause and find her quickly. Okay guys, so here we have Bootle. Those who've been watching the channel for a while will know who she is. Now for the last month I've been watching her because I saw that she was losing condition and I couldn't understand why. Ah, goodness, I think I have a bit of a cold. And I couldn't figure out why. I've been watching her, monitoring her. She looked healthy, she was grazing well, but she was losing condition. And then I saw, but her heifer calf of 11 months was still suckling her. Now, I said it before, in the last 60 days, the calf nearly doubles in size. And there's a huge nutritional strain on the animals because they have to basically feed this calf that's growing and they need to start producing colostrum. And if you still have a heifer that's suckling, 11-month-old heifer that's suckling, well, it comes at the cost of body condition. So, all right, that's on me. That's not her mistake or her fault. That's on me. I was actually supposed to have weaned that heifer in October. I'd planned to do so. But because I wasn't acting my age and I came off a horse and injured myself, that never happened. So, yeah, her condition loss is on me. What I do want to mention, though, is her last calf was born on the 14th of December. Today's the 17th of November, which means that she calved down at 27 months of age, which is young. But she's returned an intercalving period of 338 days. Her mother also had a 339-day average. In fact, I only have 2 animals in my herd with such low ICPs. It's her mother and the Boran heifer I showed you earlier with a small calf. So her mother also had a 339-day ICP. She's already done 338. Now I accept, due to my miscalculation or my poor management, she might not do so well with the next calf. It might cost me a little bit in ICP. It won't be her mistake though. It won't be her fault. It'll be mine. But still, I'm ecstatic. These are the animals we want, that calve at a young age and then reconceive to calve again. As I say, this one retained her afterbirth. She's not looking good. She didn't come in a bad condition, but she was most certainly not in the same condition as my animals that were already on farm. But she'll get there. But isn't that nice? Now, the little calf over there, I'm trying not to push them too hard. That is Fred's. So that's officially our first Thule Nguni cross on the farm. It's a little bull calf. And he's only a couple of hours old. And now they're really moving off. He's only a couple of hours old. But I'm excited to see how he turns out. When I saw him lying down, I suspected he was a bull calf, but he doesn't have the most masculine head. So, yeah, time will tell. Let's see what happens. You can see he's still a little bit wobbly, but he's literally 2 or 3 hours old. And this is something that I really appreciate about the indigenous breeds. I did manage a herd before coming here or starting my own. The herd I managed was conventional breeds, and it was nothing funny for a calf that was born to remain basically on the same spot for 7 to 14 days before getting up and moving around with its dam or its mother. I'm not saying that's the case for all conventional breeds, but excuse me, but the Ngunis, the Boran, these indigenous breeds, their calves are just up and about much quicker. So there we have it, a brand new little calf, bull calf. Fred's second calf born on this farm, our first Nguni Thule cross, and I'm excited to see how this one turns out. And then, just as important, without production licks, without maintenance licks, a little bit of urea, I'll admit, but without these licks containing maize and actual feed, this heifer still did a 300, well, cow now, she still did a 338 days into calving period. Now, I'm very curious to see how her milk production will be and how that calf will grow. As I say, her previous heifer didn't do too well, but she was suckling 2 calves. Her heifer and old Dingaan that was stealing milk. Just look at him. I can't zoom in, unfortunately. As I say, not the most masculine head, but maybe that'll improve with time. Maybe I'm overly critical. Anyway, guys, that's it. My goodness, I think this is the longest video I've ever done. If you've watched this far, just give me a double thumbs up in the comments so I can see if anyone actually does. I understand that everyone's busy and time is money. But if you've watched this far, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I'll probably have something to show you within the next couple of days. We should most certainly have at least another 2 calves. And yes, I know not everyone gets so excited by the birth of a calf, but I do, and I hope it remains that way. Anyway, guys, have a good one. We're gonna chat again. Cheers.